Hi, my name is Mark Biernat. I'm a monetary economist. In this video, I want to talk about the Russian ruble. I can't believe I'm saying this. The ruble is breaking down. Breaking down was actually literally a technical term. And I want to talk about what this means. I want to explain why technicals are very important when you're looking at FX, foreign exchange. I'm going to talk about some of the limitations. And I'm going to talk about what it means for Russia and Ukraine geopolitically. I'm going to give it to you from a perspective of one, a professional monetary economist, and two, an armchair technical trader most of my life. Being a stockbroker, I was an armchair trader. And I did manage funds, but that's another story. A breakdown is when a stock is in a stage 4, or in this case, a currency in a stage 4 formation. And what I like to do when I'm looking at technical analysis is simpler is better. The simple reveals itself after the complex has been exhausted. I know that there's bands, there's candlestick method, there's a lot of different methods. I actually like something called vector autoregression method, the VAR method, and I use a software called Gretel. It's an open source software. But in this case, I think the simpler is better, and we're going to look at stage analysis. But before that, I want to tell you specifically why it's important about Russia and this ruble and the technicals, because the tape tells all. The news is already embedded into the price of the ruble by the time it hits your screen on YouTube or wherever you get your information from. In a boardroom, like I've mentioned, they tell everybody, don't say a word. This is confidential, but something always leaks. And this stock price movement, the trajectory of these things are manifest in the stock price before the common knowledge is spread out everywhere. It starts to leak. So if there's a breakdown in the ruble, something behind the scenes is going on, something behind closed doors, something that people know about and create this price movement in the ruble. So let's take a look at the 4 stages. Stage 1 is when an asset is, I like to use 200-day moving average for the long term, 50. There's also other, 10-day moving averages. But for this grand analysis, we know that everything's going down 15 years of the ruble. A stage 1 analysis is when the moving average, the 200-day moving average is flat, and technically the asset, in this case, the ruble, should be below the 200-day moving average, but let's say it's dancing around the moving average. And it's basically a horizontal line. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is when you have something called a breakout. The price of the asset, in this case, the ruble, goes above the 200-day moving average. It pulls it up. Stage 3 is the plateau, where, again, let's say it's dancing around this horizontal plateau. And stage 4, which is a sell signal, is when the actual asset, in this case, the Russian ruble, is below the 200-day moving average. It pulls that moving average down. And we're going to get into something called the death cross. Okay, but right now we've been in a clear stage 4 pattern. Any technical analysis, from Stan Weinstein to all the market traders you want to look up, never ever buy an asset, and in this case the ruble, when it's in a stage 4. It's the kiss of death. Speaking of which, you look right now, it broke support. Sometimes I use support and resistance interchangeably, but really support's the floor, and usually a whole number or a 5 or a 10 type number that it usually bounces off of and stays for a while. It tests it. It's a psychological barrier. Resistance is on the upside, but sometimes I interchange it. It broke support of a penny. It's below a penny. It's the penny being 0.001. Okay, and this is in relation to the USD FX, foreign exchange. It not only broke it broke through. It's called a breakdown. It collapsed through support and is trying to find new support. Maybe, I think, at 0.95. Right now, at this video, it's like not 95, 0.0095, 0.0096. But 0.0095 is the next logical level of support. And I've mentioned in my other video, if it hits 0.0083, it's a total run. I mean, it's over, game over for Russia, game over for Moscow. If it is, that's the beginning of the end. If it's 007.007, and watch the FX. Don't watch the news. Watch the FX. It's telling you something. It's giving you information. It's sending you a signal. It's a message. 007, 0.007 is Candyland in Russia. You can go there, buy anything. Even I could probably go to Russia, even though I'm probably banned there by now, bad-mouthing it all the time. So we're going to talk about what this means, this breakdown. You want to see, it's broken through support. You want to see if there's something called confirmation. Confirmation is based on high volume trading. FX is OTC, and you can't get reliable information, even if it wasn't OTC, from Russia. So we don't have volume information on that breakdown. So as it cross support of a penny, we can't say definitively it's going to stay there. But what we can say is this. Other signals are like RSI, etc., relative strength index, are saying yes, but we can say it's at the death cross. The death cross is when the 200-day moving average is going down, and then the 50-day moving average crosses the 200-day average, and that is the death cross. And that is a signal, a strong signal of confirmation that this is a breakdown in the Russian ruble. So we've got it under a penny. It's trying to find support at 0.0095. We'll see if it breaks through support. And that is an indication that something is going on in Moscow, something we don't know about, but it's leaking out, and people are not trusting the currency, because ultimately, the ultimate currency in any kind of business transaction is trust, confidence. Money is a medium of exchange that's generally accepted through time. When that happens, what are the implications? I've mentioned it before. Barter exchange ratios. Already we see this on a macroeconomic level. Russia, just gives North Korea tons of oil, and Russia gets all these troops in Europe, which is another conversation. It's scandalous. Europeans should just speak out like, no, there's no tomorrow, that this Eurasian invasion is occurring. 100,000 North Korean troops in free Europe. So they're bartering, and they're bartering with the Indians, and maybe they're using some circumventing roundabout way to circumvent the fact that the ruble is just an internal voucher that's losing value and not an international currency, and certainly not a support for BRICS, right? So this breakdown, this technical breakdown, the tape tells all. There's news behind the scenes that you don't know. You don't even have to watch the news. What do? I'm not spending all day on the news. Yeah, I watch the numbers, watch the technicals. And then I go play chess. I like hiking in the woods, okay? Maybe someday I'll give you guys my chess nick on Lead Chess, and you guys can play me. I'm not mentally prepared for that. All right, so we have a breakdown, and I've mentioned, 0.007, game over for Moscow. But let's keep it going. What does this mean in terms of barter exchange ratios for a microeconomic agent, like a person or a firm? We know that I tell you what it means. They can't pay the bills. Okay, everything, you see Bitcoin and crypto going up. It's correlated with the ruble going down. I can't correlate it exactly. I've tried to run some regressions. It's not a perfect fit because there's other factors like the price of oil and exogenous variables and endogenous variables. So I can't definitively say as an econometrician that is the cause. But I'm thinking part of the cause is people are putting it into this crypto to try to preserve value. But what we can say definitively with this is if the ruble's going down, they have inflation. They have hyperinflation even starting, especially food inflation, and food that matters. That's survival inflation. Russians, YouTubers will say, oh, well, we have free healthcare. No, they don't. I've spent time in a Russian hospital. I've spent time in going to Russian doctors. They're the worst. That's nothing. To get anything, you have to pay privately. And disposable income, and that's what you're really talking about. Disposable income, the money that you have after taxes, and then you pay your rent, you pay everything else, and you can check numerial on that, is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. They're not going to pay the bills. So my question is, when this ruble goes down, which is a sign, it's like a symptom, taking the pulse. We can't look inside because it's a closed economy. The doctors can see external signals. That means inflation. That means disposable income is down. And at some point, at 0.0083, mark me on this, they won't be able to pay their bills, the vast majority of Russians. 0.007, I can guarantee you, not only the pensioners, but pretty much everybody, game over. They won't be able to pay their bills for food, for rent. I talked about complementary goods, substitution effect, supplementing normal goods for inferior goods in the food sector, for people consuming it. But what do you do if you can't pay the rent, if you can't pay the bills, if you can't pay the heat? And even though you're getting paid in rubles, that is game over. Okay. So it means something. Numbers mean something. This currency decline, this technical breakdown means something. Keep your eye on the ball. I'll do more videos subsequently on this. What does it mean in the context of everything? Well, in Russian history, there's always been a czar. There's always been these people called boyars, Boyars, Boyars. Look up boyars. Look what they are. They're extravagant, wearing these foofy, flashy costumes. And I include the Orthodox top Russian Orthodox, of course, in this first class, first gentry, first estate, as it's been called. And then you have the serfs. And there have been serf rebellions, a number in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. Probably the most successful or strange serfs is that they didn't have a huge impact because the Russians suppressed it with such huge severity that it had a psychological impact to deter. But, in 1917, that was a successful one. It went sideways in other ways, but it was successful. So maybe this reinventing of Russia comes from the serfs, from the people. The people are living under oppression. You say, well, the secret police are everywhere. And the Russians have been so propagandized. They're like, oh, we are the little people. We can't do anything. That's their problem. Now, I can't fix it. I can't help them with that. But I'm telling you, sometimes it does come from the populace. Sometimes it comes to the boyars, like in the time of troubles. You can look up time of troubles in Russia. But if the police are not getting paid, because they're people too, even if they're the priority, you can't pay everybody. It's like, again, the guns and butter, you can't pay everything. At some point, it does collapse. And you say, well, they don't have any debt. No, they have tremendous debt, Russia. I'm going to go into that in another video. And especially if you define debt as the ability to raise capital. They don't have the ability to raise capital. Capital formation is collapsing. When you've got this capital lengthening, it's just not cutting it short. You can't cut short the, production of a car, let's say. Then they don't really produce cars. They produce these whatever they produce, everybody makes fun of. It actually creates this collapse. That's Austrian business cycle theory. Look at the interest rates. I go back to the natural rate and the bank rate. I can keep on going. But right now, this video talks about the breakdown of the Russian ruble in technical terms based on stage 4 analysis and the cross of death, the 200-day cross and then the 50-day moving average, putting the cross of death on the Russian ruble, and that's confirmation of that signal. Let's watch this go down. Grab your popcorn because Moscow is going down. My name is Mark Biernot. I'm a monetary economist. Have a great day. Thank you very much.